Hello ladies and gentlemen, YesExeek here to bring you a painting tutorial, kind of. I'm not a great painter, but I figured I would do a very quick tutorial to show you how to paint up models rather quickly and without caring, using some non-standard tools. So, by non-standard tools, I mean fairly simply makeup brushes, and you can get these makeup brushes just at the dollar store. They are quite hard to clean, so you have to clean them very well right away in lots of water and then dry them off so that they don't end up broken. But they're good for painting large amounts of things at once. And today we are painting this Canoptek, I forget what the hell it's called. Um, and basically what I'm going to name this is how to stop giving a fuck and start painting your models. Because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give very few fucks here. And I have only a few colors here to paint with. I might add some as I go, but what I have is speed metal and thrash metal from Metal Alchemy scale range. And then I have a kind of very saturated red from Chimera. Replace these with anything you want as long as you have a deep metal, a bright metal, a red, and Inktense Lime. Any very liquidy, bright green will do the trick here. I know they're a bit hard to locate. I can't recommend the Inkintensity range enough. But let's go ahead and start out by just adding a bunch of thrash metal to the wet palette here. And I'm going to need quite a bit. It's a fairly large project. Always make sure you shake your paints well. I've done that in the background here. And then I'm going to go ahead and... I don't trust the water I have right now. It's not quite as watery as I would like it to be. So instead of water, I'm going to use some of my airbrush thinner here. If your water isn't dirty, feel free to just use water for this step to thin it out. And then just kind of mix it with the paintbrush and keep dragging it out until you get a good consistency. And that is a very good consistency right there. So now I have quite a bit of this on my brush. Just going to go ahead and wipe a fair amount off both sides and then start going. So one of the reasons for makeup brushes is that they are nice, big, soft bristled, and they can cover lots of ground at once because I just need to paint this entire thing metallic to start with. And they also hold a lot of paint on the brush. So essentially you just dry brush the whole thing, but don't tell anyone that because they'll think you're cheating. So you can see I've already got a pretty good metallic coat down on the main body. Probably going to need a bit more thrash metal than this. It is a rather large model. And you can see how easily it goes on, just dry brushing the thing. I have thinned it a fair amount to keep the zenithal visible. Also, I'm focusing very much on where to put effort and where not to put effort. The entire underside of this thing could also be done in metallic, but as long as you give it a quick brush on the visible areas, you'll get more than enough of an effect. Very few people are going to be looking at the underside of your model. Don't bother with it. There we go. Let's get the other side's legs here. Again, I've gotten some of the metallics underneath, especially in areas where they will be looked at, but mostly just kind of brush it on where you know that you'll see it. It's also very helpful that you'll pretty much automatically brush wherever you can see because that's where you can see. So there we go, got a good base of metallic on this guy. Gonna make sure his whole head is done metallic. And then I might as well, ooh, almost break my model, and use up the rest of the thrash metal on here just to get a bit more saturation on this. Why not use up the entire thing? Waste not, want not, or at least that's what they tell me, and I keep on wasting. Okay. So, now that's done, I'm gonna wash this brush off. I have a big thing of water just off camera here. Wash the brush off, and then I'm going to move to my dry brush. And this is more makeup brushes. I have this nice big fan brush right here. I'll actually put it on the main camera. For this, I'm going to use the speed metal because I want some pretty strong highlights on this. I'm also going to kind of even up the coat that's already there with, yeah, just using this. So I'm going to want quite a wide amount of speed metal, and I'm going to need to unclog it apparently. And I have a cat coming. Noodle, good girl. By the way, sorry about the camera angle, but I tend to paint over my lap, so It's just the helpful place to put it for me personally. By the way, if anyone just drops into this call, I should let you know that I am in a public call right now, just waiting for company, and I decided to record a video while I'm at it. So you can see I've done quite a wide line there of speed metal. Speed metal is great because it is essentially white. It is whiter than platinum or than most titaniums. So you just want to get this not saturated, but you want to get a fair amount of it on the tip. And then you want to brush off as much as you can. It's fairly easy to do. Then you're going to want to take something like a spare sheet of paper towel and see if it's leaving behind any residue. You essentially want it leaving behind nothing, more or less. And then just give it a very quick brush, and that will just catch all the highest areas and give them a nice white glow. Okay, I kind of put too much off of it. There we go. So that'll give it a very nice edge highlight. This is what makeup brushes are good for. It's almost what they're designed for. You'll find if you look up makeup videos, there are a lot of similarities between putting on makeup and painting miniatures. Yeah, if you want to see the effect of it, you can just look on this face of the of this guy that I have here. You can see there's some bright metallic edges on that, just because I've caught them with the brush. There we go. And now what I am going to need is a little bit of white. One advanced thing that I am going to use in this video is I'm going to be using an oil wash. They're not that advanced. I actually highly recommend oils for beginners in general. I also gave it a kind of a scratchy look, but I don't mind that, so I'm going to stick with it. Now I'm going to take speed metal, and I'm actually going to paint it manually in all the places I want a green glow to go. Speed metal is essentially a white, so you can do that. Let's take a fairly big brush. We don't have to be that even or precise with it. Although you will want a decent amount of white inside this little eye section. And then each of these little nodes here are probably going to have a green glow because it's Necrons, right? So just get a nice little thing there. Generally I would do the source lighting on this, or the green glow, with an airbrush. Honestly, I'm making a tutorial and I have not done this very well before. So who knows how that'll turn out. But I will try to do it with a paintbrush instead, because I think that given a makeup brush and some effort, you can easily do it without any advanced tools. So just kind of almost dry brushing on this pattern right here. Later on I will be using a wash in order to bring it down, especially because I'm planning on doing a glow on top, and I want these to be very, very visible. Any little pokey bits, make sure to give them a coat of speed metal, maybe even these arrows right here. And you know, these can have a big glow to them. They can be large glowy sections. So speed metal again. Speed metal is magical. It might not look like I'm doing much, but it really is giving it a lot of contrast. Sometimes hard to show metallics on camera, but that is giving it a lot of contrast, a lot of area for the metallic, or for the lime green to actually show through here. And try to get some in these areas too, because why not? And the end of the tail. Perfect. Catch a couple edges. Realize that you had given up on painting all these things in speed metal and actually finish that job up. There we go. Lots of dry brushing, because you really don't want this to be excessively everywhere. Speed metal, it can be rather strong. There we go. Put that down. Wash your brush off. And then get the Inktense Lime ready and get it in a pool here. So this you're going to want to glaze on to all the areas where you want to glow. And you could do this, in all honesty, what I'm going to try to do here is actually use this brush again right here. And this is my first time trying this, but I assume it's going to work, so I feel like I can put it in a tutorial. The reason for this tutorial, by the way, is because I paint a lot, or I paint a decent amount rather quickly, and sometimes people wonder how I get the effects I get in such a short time. So you can see I'm still leaving some green behind there. Important to test that when you're dry brushing. And I wanted to give a quick guide just on the types of tricks I use and the types of speed that I get. So I'll have to paint some of this on manually later. Right now I'm literally just getting the glow effect, which I again want pretty much all over all of this, but very, very lightly. And remember, this will be brought down by a wash later, especially in the crevices. So let's go ahead and get some more where I know I'm going to need it. I can come through and clean this up a bit later if I want more of a controlled look, but so far it's a pretty good looking glow, considering I got this effect in mere seconds. There we go. Now I'm done with that. I'm going to wash it off. Always wash your makeup brushes quite well right away, because if you don't, they just will not wash. You might actually need to wash them in some sort of brush cleaning chemical, or even like try to recondition them using, because look at this, it's already a bit iffy. Recondition them using some acetone or something. You can look up other guides on that. I'm not the person to tell you about that. And then I'm going to take a regular brush and start reinforcing the green in the areas where I really want it quite deep or quite bright. So on top of all these little glowy bits, because the rest is just a glow, right? But these are the actual things glowing, and I want them to be quite green. Trying my best to keep the object I'm painting in camera here. A tiny bit more bright green. You really want this to go over as near as white as possible. If you have an airbrush, you can literally just airbrush this on and get a really good glow effect over anything that is white-ish. There we go. Excuse you, Jessica. And I'll get some really bright green here. And then wipe this off a bit. Try to reinforce the actual glowy bits of all this writing by just kind of wet brushing, let's call it, this on. After we're done the wash step, we might actually want to come back in with white and dry brush that, or maybe even the speed metal again, just to make sure that we have a very, very glowy effect and that the brightest parts are very bright. Because right now the glow effect is all over the place. Get a bit more glow in there because it's going to be quite glowy. And already looking pretty good. So let's go on to the wash step now. Use a special brush if you're going to be using an oil wash, because once you use oil, until you clean them very, very well, you can't use anything else. So I have this brush specifically, which is my oil wash brush, especially for large items. You can see it's quite big. It's very, very soft, so it holds a lot of wash. And I have this entire mix of oil wash right here, which I always buy these Vallejo bottles for things, and I always keep the bottles because they have such a good dispensing system, like a little squirter that is quite nice. So I'm going to require quite a lot of wash here, so I'm going to get myself a fresh little cup. Any container will do for this, but it needs to be fairly deep so that you can actually get a fair amount of the wash in things. So the reason I got the red initially was to paint the little bit of terrain that I'm basing this guy on, but I feel like I don't really need to do that, so, or at least not for this video, because that would just take too long for what is essentially a quick video. And then I'm just going to dab, or however you dab, I don't know, I'm too old for that shit. Not that I disapprove, I just can't dab. It's a bit like me trying to rap. It's just not culturally appropriate. Let's put it that way. And I'm not saying that white people can't rap. I'm saying that I am too white to rap. Just making that very clear as well. So I don't think that's quite enough. I would like to bring it down quite a bit more. I rely fairly heavily on washes, especially on big metal things. Um, I've probably added a bit too much brown to this specific wash. I would prefer if it was just more black and white. So let's go ahead and add nice big dabs. It's going to spill everywhere. That is alright. We can clean this up later with a Q-tip or with a brush. But you can see now I'm getting good definition on all of those little green things. And I'm getting a good amount of paint all over my hands, which is why my hands were so dirty to begin with, because I had just finished painting a couple Democarons here. Okay, now pick up a Q-tip or something. A dry brush would do just as well here, and anywhere where it's pooled unnaturally, just kind of unpool it. Try to hold it up to the camera here. I really do want these dark in the recesses though, so I'm going to try to avoid picking anything up from those. That's way too much right there, way too much right there. The great thing about oils in general is that you can always clean them up using a tiny bit of mineral spirit and a Q-tip, and they also have very, very long working time. So you can always correct your mistakes. So I'm actually going to dip this in here and actually add a bit more back. I can use the other side if I need to take it away again. There we go. Q-tips are also very good for applying spot washes as long as you have the other side available to take the spot wash away. There we go. Let's put a bit more wash in this one. And good to go. Yeah. I'm going to name this How to Stop Giving a Fuck and Start Painting Your Army. Now, I would use an air dryer here, or a hair dryer, but I don't have one at present. It is on the way right now. So I'm just going to use my airbrush and try to blast off some of this, well, it's methylated, or it's not methylated spirits, it's white spirits, because that's what you need in order to thin the oil in order to get an oil paint. The other thing is acrylics do not stick well over oil, especially if the oil is a tiny bit wet. I'm going to pick up a tiny bit with my finger there. So sometimes you'll need to apply a varnish if you plan on applying anything over the oil. Getting a nice green glow there. Still a bit wet. Try to dry that off a bit more. And then I'm going to go ahead and come in with another dry brush, this time of just the speed metal here. Make sure you wipe it off on something. If you want to see exactly how absorbent it is, I recommend getting paper towel and then priming the paper towel. I know that sounds weird, but if you want to see exactly how much you're dry brushing off, it will really help you. And then I'm just going to catch some of the edges in this metal again to try to get it really brightened where it needs to be. There we go. Probably should have done a lighter dry brush here. Taking care of some of that glow. And there we go. I can't help but notice I didn't quite get enough green on some of these guys over here. So I'm going to go ahead and go in with a very small detail brush and kind of reinforce some of that. With things like writing and patterns, I highly, highly recommend you always just more or less dry brush or wet brush, just very lightly go over, because you'll take forever to trace the things. And that's how you do it if you're a professional, but if you just want to get your army painted, skip that. Take whatever paint you can off your brush and then just very lightly run it along the top and let the wash take care of the outlines later. And very worst case scenario, you'll end up with a nice glow effect. Probably should have actually used a green paint here instead of a green ink, especially on top of oil, but that's alright. The rule of don't mix acrylics with oil is a rule that you should follow unless you don't. You can kind of fudge it, but not much. There we go, and then one last little bit. Ooh. And screwed this one up a lot, so let's just put it down, then take it off again. And then reinforce anywhere where I might have accidentally wiped off some of the glow. So looking quite good here. So this was done with 4 paints, and an airbrush. But the airbrush was literally just used to dry it. Now let's move on to a bit more painting, because I'm going to paint the carapace of this thing this kind of deep red here, and then I'm going to pick out some of the metallic sections. I'm not going to bother painting it all. It's just terrain. Just a tiny bit of paint and some basing will do more than enough here. Chimera colors are incredibly high pigment, so generally it is advisable to water them down a bit, but not enough so that they break like this. So do as I say, not as I do. Either way, let's pick this up and grab some of this carapace down here. Hopefully you guys can see it as I paint. Yeah. So this is why I like chimera colors. Even watered down, their pigmentation is so strong that you can get a decent coverage out of them. And a nice desaturated red will really make this pop quite a bit and make sure that I don't have to paint the rest of it, which is the most important part. I'll be doing the trim here in like gold or silver or something. Probably just speed metal because it's what's on my brush right now. And then yeah, always when you're considering putting a new color on, consider putting the same color that you've already used on instead, because that will give you a very, very nice complementary effect. And also try to have opposing colors on your color palette. Just look up a color wheel and be like, what's a complementary color for my main color? Then add it to your wheel, or add it to the palette. Don't necessarily use it one-to-one with everything else, because that will lead you astray. Instead, just mix it into other colors that you're considering putting places. Like if I was going to paint this base, a good opposing color to green would be orange, so I'd use some orange in whatever stone or whatever texture I put on in order to make the green really pop. So now I have a nice little effect right there. Wash this makeup brush off because I don't need it anymore. And then I'm going to use this makeup brush as a dry brush, once again for this speed metal, which you can see is pretty much white. I'm letting some of the red bleed into it because why the hell not? And then I'm just going to go ahead and grab some of the metallic bits, some of the pipes here, a few of the pipes. Gonna leave the skull as it is, but kind of like grab one eye and grab some of the teeth, some of up there, and a bit of this little side area. Just kind of brush it on so it has some metallic looks to it. And just wherever you think it should go. Okay, and back to the red because I missed a tiny bit down here. I just mixed speed metal in with red because this is a metallic carapace anyways. If the paint chipped off anywhere, it would be metallic underneath. Wash the brush, make sure the color is actually off of it, and then after you wait for it to dry, you can put a wash on that to make it look a bit more natural, especially on top of that big bright silver button right there, which is a void shield generator. And you know what, I have a tiny bit of black just hanging out here. Let's go ahead and give this face a tiny bit of tone, because why the hell not? Always consider using just what is on your palette in order to darken things up, in order to use complementary tones, in order to dab it into areas that need a bit of darkening. That's called palette mud by a lot of professionals, and they use it all the goddamn time. Okay, anyways, so this is my little Necron thing, which I have painted up in 24 minutes. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this encourages somebody to actually speed up their painting process and just get some shit painted, because that's mainly the purpose of what I do. That's how I paint. Get it painted, get it looking table ready, and then learn from there. Maybe speed painting is actually how you paint. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.